Look at this ISKCON. Oh my God.
What's all this?
Oh my God. There was stuff. There was weird stuff on the.
Is he coming down?
No, you know what it is? It's they took the lights down yesterday, and like I had to clean up. And now there's stuff all over the floor. We got there's stuff here. I cleaned up a whole mess.
Oh, it's all.
there.
It's okay. The lights have only been up for like 6 months.
I know, huh?
I thought they were going to be. I thought that.
Outside. Oh my God. That means when I was sitting here yesterday, I was probably sitting among all the hundreds of ants. For a while. Probably. Yeah. Every once in a while, Maharaj would talk about how there were living entities in the garlands. Yeah. We should probably make sure that whoever cleans the temple room actually, like checks on the cushions. Yeah. I'm not sure if I want a garland. I really have a little bit divided feelings about this. No ants on the garland. Devotee ants. Okay. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari. Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamuna Tiramanachari. Yamuna Tiramanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari. Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajikacharya Asatara Satashri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Shikaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Go Gopinath Shai Mukunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhana Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dhama Ki Jai, Mathura Dhama Ki Jai, Navadvip Mayapur Dhama Ki Jai, Jagannath Puri Dhama Ki Jai, Gangamaya Jamuna Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai, Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai, Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees.
All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Nama Om Vishnupadaya. Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane. Namaste Sarasvati Deve Gauravani Pacharane Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paskatya Deshatarane. Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Stam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sadvadutam Parijana Sahita Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha Vanchakalpati Bishakri Pasandavya Patitanam Pavanevyo Vaishnavevi Namo Namaha. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. April 1st, 2024, in Hillsborough, North Carolina, New Goloka. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 51, Text 9. Evam Shiptopi Bhagavan Pravishad Giri Kandaram Sopi Pravishtastaranyam. Sopi Pravishtastatranyam Shayanam Dadrishenaram. Please chant. Sopi Pravishtas Tatranam Shayanam Dadrishenaram. Evam Kshiptopi Bhagavan Pravishad Giri Kandaram Sopi Pravishtas Tatranyam Shayanam Dadrishenaram. Evam Shiptopi Bhagavan Kandaram Sopi Pravistas Tatranyam Shayanam Dadrisenaram. Evam Shitopi Bhagavan Pravisad Giri Kandaram Sopi Pravistas Tatranyam Shayanam Dadrishenaram. Evam, thus, Shiptaha, insulted, Api, even though, Bhagavan, the Supreme Lord, Pravishat, entered, Giri Kandaram, the mountain cave, Saha, he Kalayavana, Api, as well, Pravishtaha, entering, Tatra, there, Anyam, another, Shayanam, lying, Dadrishe, saw, Nadam, man. BBT translation. Although insulted in this way, the Supreme Lord entered the mountain cave. Kalayavana also entered, and there he saw another man lying asleep. And as we'll, in the following verses, it'll be clear that Kalayavana thought the man lying asleep was Krishna. He didn't realize it was the second man. BBT purport, the Lord exhibits here his opulence of renunciation. Determined to execute his plan and give his blessings to Muchakunda, the Lord ignored Kalayavana's insults and calmly proceeded with his program. Evam kshiptopi bhagavan pravishad girikandaram sopi pravishtastantranyam shayanam dadrishe naram. what I'm going to do, I'm going to read the previous verse so to understand what the insult was. So the previous verse is, while chasing the Lord, the Yavana cast insults at him, saying, "You took birth in the Yadu dynasty. It's not proper for you to run away." So in other words, he's saying, you're not living up to your family. You have a high family. You have a family of fighters. You should stand and fight. You're being, what was he calling Krishna? A coward. Indirectly calling him a coward. Okay, today's verse, although insulted in this way, the Supreme Lord entered the mountain cave. Kalyavana also entered, and there he saw another man lying asleep. So, I'm sure most of you know how the story proceeds, that basically this man lying asleep ends up being the one to kill Kalyavana. So here we're dealing with insults, how Krishna deals with insults. And insults are definitely a problem. It's one of the most difficult things to deal with, is being insulted. And this particular insult, being called a coward, is perhaps one of the most egregious ways that anybody can be insulted. I was really impressed years ago, C.S. Lewis writing about how even the demons hate cowardice. You know, demons, they may think lust and greed and envy are all cool things. Like Kamashrita, Krishna says, they take shelter of lust. Ahankar Ashrita, they take shelter of their false ego. So demons may think it's good to be greedy, it's good to be lusty, it's good to be angry, but they don't think it's good to be a coward. It's really a heavy-duty way to insult somebody. You're a coward. You don't have any backbone. You can't stand for what you believe in. You can't do what's right. You can't face your fears. You just run away from difficulty. You don't do what you're supposed to be doing. And definitely one of the most difficult things in general for us to deal with is any time that we feel insulted, belittled, criticized. It's a real big problem, and we're going to look at some verses that Krishna gives in this regard. And then I wanted to look at something I don't usually look at when I talk about insults and how to deal with them, and that is how Krishna deals with insults. Because here we find a very particular way he's dealing with insults. We're going to look at some other ways he deals with insults, and then how can we deal with insults. So why is it so difficult? Why is it such a big deal if somebody comes up to us and says, you know, well, you're a coward, or you're useless, or you're incompetent, or you're stupid, or something like that? Why does this affect us so much? And it's interesting that Krishna has these statements to Uddhava. Just this morning I was hearing Prabhupada saying that Krishna's instructions to Uddhava are as or more significant than Krishna's instructions to Arjuna. And he says, this is 11:23-2. O disciple of Brahaspati, there is virtually no saintly man in this world capable of resettling his own mind after it has been disturbed by the insulting words of uncivilized men. I consider this a very heavy, heavy verse, where Krishna is saying, you can be a sadhu, he has right here, sadhu, a saintly person. There is not, na asti, atra sadhu. There is no saintly person in this world who can resettle his mind after he's been insulted. And I had one devotee ask me the other day, why is it that when people correct me or insult me, that my whole body kind of explodes? And I said, you can't stop that. Krishna says you can't stop that. There's going to be a reaction in the body when we are insulted or belittled. And Krishna says, even if you're a sadhu, this is going to happen. And in the next verse, text 3, he says, sharp arrows which pierce one's chest and reach the heart do not cause as much suffering as the arrows of harsh, insulting words that become lodged within the heart when spoken by uncivilized men. So we're going to react more strongly, Krishna says. We're going to react, hello, more strongly. Yeah. to being insulted than we are to somebody attacking us physically. So if someone shoots, I haven't had an arrow shot in my heart, at least not in this lifetime. I don't remember in any other lifetime. But I would imagine that that would be excruciating. And yet Krishna is saying it's more excruciating to be insulted by uncivilized people. And then when we turn to Lord Shiva in 4.3.19, he's talking to his wife Sati, who of course she's about to be insulted by her father because she's married to Lord Shiva. And she wants to go to the festival. She wants to go to the yajna, even though there's a good chance her father's going to insult her. And Lord Shiva says, if one is hurt by the arrows of an enemy, one is not as aggrieved as when cut by the unkind words of a relative, for such grief continues to rend one's heart day and night. So we have this kind of progression, being attacked by physical arrows in the heart. It's worse to be insulted by an uncivilized person, and it's even worse to be insulted by a relative, by a friend, a relative, by someone who's dear to us, because we expect our relatives and friends are going to be kind to us. We expect, Prabhupada writes here in this purport, we expect an enemy to attack us, but we don't expect that from a friend. So why is it that this affects us so much? What's the problem here? Well, there's two levels we could look at. One is that we want to be safe. We want to be safe from pain, and we want to be safe from death. And if someone insults us, we may feel that we're going to suffer in some way. We're social creatures, and if people insult us or belittle us or criticize us, we may legitimately feel that we're going to lose access to some resources within our group if we're marginalized, if we're ostracized. In former times, people were exiled. That doesn't work very well today, but I mean, this idea like when Lord Ramachandra was exiled. Exile was considered a punishment equal to death for somebody that, for whatever reason, like they were royalty, you didn't want to kill. You're throwing them out of the group, out of their access to resources. You know, this idea that some person abandoned on a deserted isle is going to be able to get everything that they need. It's very difficult if we had to get everything that we need ourselves. So we're afraid that I'm going to be ostracized by my group. I'm not going to be able to get what I need. I'm not going to live anymore, or I'm going to suffer in some way. It's a very deep-rooted fear, biological fear. But then there's also, you could say, on the positive side, there's a desire for love and authenticity and vulnerability. It's not just that we want to live, we want to be close to other living beings. And we want to be vulnerable. We want to have people in our lives that we feel that we can trust. And in a family, there's a lot of trust, right? Husbands and wives, they share a bank account and a bank account password and maybe, an email password and a key to the house and a key to the car and so forth. You're sharing everything with someone. I mean, I can walk in the home of a family member when they're not there. They're not worried that I'm going to steal their money or break their things, and this being able to reveal one's mind. It's one of the loving exchanges, to be able to reveal one's mind in confidence, and that someone's not going to condemn you for some weakness that you have. If you say, well, I'm struggling with this, or I don't know what to do about this, or I'm having this difficulty, and a person's going to be there for you. They're not going to use it against you. We know sometimes people, after a nasty divorce, they write some book about all the nasty things about their ex-spouse. But we want to feel safe with someone. We want that connection with someone, and these kind of insults and belittling and criticism, it violates that in us. It takes that away from us. And so therefore it's extremely painful. It's painful because it's threatening, and it's painful because that way we feel we can't access what we really want, what we really desire, that kind of connection. And you'll see, like Lord Shiva is telling his wife, that when we're betrayed by a family member, that for days and months and years, that can go on hurting. You know, if you're insulted by an enemy or an uncivilized person, maybe it hurts for a little while, but a family member or friend, it can just be devastating. And we see this happens with people, right? They have somebody they're close to and they're betrayed by that person, or they're insulted or belittled by that person, and it continues to hurt them for a very, very, very long period of time. So I wanted to look at how Krishna deals with being insulted, because people do insult Krishna and they do criticize Krishna. It's not that he doesn't get this. So we see in the verse today, the way that Krishna deals with it is he's completely silent. He doesn't respond to Kaliyavana at all in any way. He doesn't respond to Kaliyavana in terms of insulting him back. He doesn't respond in terms of defending himself. And he doesn't respond physically to Kaliyavana. Basically, what he does is he just takes it to another person to deal with. Let Muchakunda deal with this. Of course, Krishna accomplishes many things by one action. So he wakes Mukunda up from his sleep. Muchakunda is sleeping after having engaged in a big battle on behalf of the demigods, and he's sleeping. So it's time to wake up. Krishna's acting here. He's using Kaliyavana to act as Muchakunda's alarm clock, and he wants to give his blessings and benedictions to Muchakunda, but he's also basically using Muchakunda to deal with his enemy. So this is certainly one strategy. You take the problem to somebody else. You let somebody else, you don't deal with it at all yourself. You just let somebody else deal with it. Another strategy is you fight back. Now, this strategy of fighting back is particularly done when you want to increase the problem. You want to ferment a fight. You're not really trying to solve the problem. You're exacerbating the problem. And there's reasons why you might want to do this. We find in the Shastra that this fighting back against being insulted especially happens between people who want to have a physical fight to the death. All right, so let's look here at Bhagavatam 3:18-3. This is the fight between Varaha and Hiranyaka. So Hiranyaka, he says to the Lord, "O best of the demigods, dressed in the form of a boar, just hear me. This earth is entrusted to us, the inhabitants of the lower regions, and you cannot take it from my presence and not be hurt by me." So this is Hiranyaka is saying, this is my property, you're taking it away, and I'm going to punish you. "You rascal, you have been nourished by our enemies to kill us, and you have killed some demons by remaining invisible." In other words, so the only way you've conquered is by cheating. "O fool, your power is only mystic, so today I shall enliven my kinsmen by killing you. When you fall dead, with your skull smashed by the mace hurled by my arms, the demigods and sages who offer you oblations and sacrifice in devotional service will also automatically cease to exist like trees without roots." This is a common strategy of the demons, that they think if they kill God, then all the saintly persons will also die. Now here's very significant. The first step in how Krishna deals with this. This is text 6. "Although the Lord was pained by the shaft-like," here we have this arrow analogy again, "the shaft-like abusive words of the demon, he bore the pain. But seeing that the earth on the ends of his tusks was frightened, he rose out of the water just as an elephant emerges with its female companion when assailed by an alligator." So he had some duty to do. He had to take care of the earth, and therefore he didn't immediately respond to Hiranyaka. And Srila Prabhupada's purport here I find really not only fascinating, but I would say charming. Srila Prabhupada's purport. The Mayavadi philosopher cannot understand that the Lord has feelings. You know, we think of the Lord as just kind of neutral. And as Brahman, certainly, there's no feelings. As Paramatma, there's neutrality, but even Paramatma has feelings, but certainly Bhagavan has feelings. The Lord is satisfied if someone offers him a nice prayer, and similarly, God is dissatisfied if someone decries his existence or calls him by ill names. I'm not going to read the whole purport. The conclusion is that God is as sentient as we are. He is satisfied by our prayers and dissatisfied by our harsh words against him. In order to give protection to his devotee, he is always ready to tolerate insulting words from the atheists. So he was tolerating for the sake of the planet. But the Lord also has feelings. Now, of course, it's not exactly the same as ours. He's not afraid that he's going to lose his identity or die, like we are if someone insults us. And he's not feeling needy for love like a conditioned soul is who doesn't realize that they're already full of love. So he's not being motivated by the same thing. It's not an attachment and aversion going on with the Lord. But there is a transcendental reality by which the Lord cares about how people deal with him. Now, he cares about how people deal with him out of love for the person who's dealing with him this way. He sees that those who are insulting him are ultimately really hurting themselves. And therefore, he feels disturbed for their sake. Just like a parent who sees their child becoming a drug addict or a criminal, they're hurt for the sake of the child, out of love for the child. And when they see that the child is happy in their relationship, they're happy out of love for the child. I want to skip a couple verses here and read verse 9 through 12. The demon who had a wealth of ornaments, bangles, and beautiful golden armor on his body chased the Lord from behind with a great mace. The Lord tolerated his piercing ill words, but in order to reply to him, he expressed his terrible anger. The personality of Godhead said, "Indeed, we are creatures of the jungle, and we are searching after hunting dogs like you. One who is freed from the entanglement of death has no fear from the loose talk in which you are indulging, for you are bound up by the laws of death. Certainly, we have stolen the charge of the inhabitants of Rasatala and have lost all shame. Although bitten by your powerful mace, I shall stay here in the water for some time, because having created enmity with a powerful enemy, I now have no place to go. You are supposed to be the commander of many foot soldiers, and now you may take prompt steps to overthrow us. Give up all your foolish talk and wipe out the cares of your kith and kin by slaying us. One may be proud, yet he does not deserve a seat in an assembly if he fails to fulfill his promised word." I'm going to look in here at the purport to text 9. Prabhupada says, the Lord could have chastised the demon immediately while the demon was deriding the Lord with ill words, but the Lord tolerated him to please the demigods and to show that they should not be afraid of the demons while discharging their duties. Therefore, his toleration was displayed mainly to drive away the fears of the demigods, who should know that the Lord is always present to protect them. So there we see the Lord, he waits for a little while to make sure that the demigods know that he's not afraid, that everything's under control. And then he just lets loose this volley of insults back at the demon. Now, what's he trying to do here? He wants the demon to fight. I'd like you to think for a minute. So even if you're a very powerful kshatriya and you're not afraid of violence and you're not afraid of battle, in fact, as Krishna says, happy are the kshatriyas to whom such fighting opportunities come unsought, opening for them the doors of the heavenly kingdom. One of the unique features of those who have the temperament of the Kshatriya Varna is that they're energized by crisis. They do their best to avoid crisis. They do their best to keep peace. They do their best to avoid war and fighting. But if it comes, they're energized by it. They go into a state of calm focus. The other Varnas are not like that. However, even for such people, when you're right there on the battlefield facing your enemy, and you know that you might literally lose your right arm, or your eyes, or your life, you might hesitate. You might say, I don't know. This is one of the reasons why the king, the president, prime minister, they always had to ride at the front of the army. Like if we told our modern leaders, hey, you want to start a war? Fine and dandy. You ride right at the front, okay? Then they might hesitate. They might say, well, I'm not really sure if I want to be at the front. So by insulting your enemy, you get them to fight. It's very effective. Right? If I want to make you angry enough to fight, I insult you. So we find this all throughout the Shastra, that when they're fighting, when they're facing each other on the battlefield, this is very important. If we respond to insults with insults, if we respond to criticism with criticism, we are going to cause a fight. We're going to cause destruction. That's the only reason to do that, is to escalate, to exacerbate things. And we're going to see Krishna does this again. And here we're looking at 1066. So this is where Pondraka sends this messenger to Krishna. And the messenger says, Pondraka was saying that he was Krishna and Krishna should give up his position. He says, and this is the messenger, text 5, I am the one and only Lord Vasudeva, and there is no other. It is I who have descended to this world to show mercy to the living beings. Therefore, give up your false name. Give up my personal symbols, which out of foolishness you now carry, and come to me for shelter. If you do not, then you must give me battle. King Ugrasena and the other members of the assembly laughed loudly. The personality of Godhead, after enjoying the jokes, replied. Here again, he's going to reply again with insults. You fool! I will indeed let loose the weapons you boast of in this way. Pondraka's like, give me your weapons. He says, I'll give you my weapons. When you lie dead, O fool, your face covered by vultures, herons, and vata birds, you will become the shelter of dogs. And then Krishna goes and fights. Right? He prepares for battle. Again, these kind of insults are a preparation for battle. All right, now that's not the only way the Lord responds to insults. And that way of responding to insults would be categorized, is categorized by Srila Rupa Goswami as the Dhirodatta part of the Lord's personality. What I like to call like the bad boy. Krishna has 4 main aspects of his personality. Dhira Lalita, which I like to call like the fun boy, the party boy. Dhira Prasanta, the humble gentleman. Dhirodatta, the great hero. And Dhirodatta, the bad boy. And you see, even in, fiction or whatever, these 4 types of heroes are often portrayed. Now, in today's verse, he's really like Dhirodatta. He's being very heroic. He's turning it over to somebody else. In these other instances, with Pondraka and with Hiranyaksha, he's Dhirodatta, he's the bad boy. But we have some instances where he responds very, very differently. So, for example, with the gopis in Bhagavatam 10:32, the gopis, after Krishna returns to the Ras Leela, they criticize him and they tell him that he's ungrateful, indirectly, subtly. And Krishna just apologizes. And Krishna has this very clever way of responding. He says, I'm a merchant, but I'm not a merchant. I'm detached, but I'm not detached. Right? I may seem ungrateful, but I'm never ungrateful. And he turns it around and he says, I'm so sorry. I never should have left you. I did it simply to glorify you, not to hurt you. Another example that we see is in 1089, where Bhrigu Muni is deputed to see who's most in the mode of goodness. So I don't have time, because of dealing with the ants, to resolve the whole thing. But anyway, he goes to Lord Brahma and he doesn't offer respects to his father. And Lord Brahma becomes very angry but controls it. Then he goes to Lord Shiva, who's his brother, and he insults him. And Lord Shiva's ready to kill him. Okay, and Lord Shiva's just stopped by his wife. Don't kill your brother. So then he goes to Lord Vishnu, and he steps on his chest, right in front of Lakshmi Devi. And then the Lord, here's this text 8-9, he comes down from his bed, and he bows his head in front of Bhrigu, and he says, "Welcome. Please forgive us that I didn't receive you properly. Please purify me by giving me the water that's washed your feet. Today, the goddess of fortune will reside on my chest because you purified it with your feet." He completely turns it around. Instead of getting angry that he was kicked, he says, "You have purified me." So this is Dhiro Prasanta, the gentleman. So what are we going to do when we're insulted? Okay, well, we could go to higher authority. Or go to some other proper authority. Call the police, talk to the temple president, talk to the person's parents, like Krishna's going here to Muchakunda. Let someone else deal with it. We don't have to deal with it ourselves. We could respond in kind. We could defend ourselves. We could counterattack with insults. But no, only do that if you want to fight to the death with somebody. If you're trying to destroy the relationship, you're trying to destroy the person, that works very well. And the other thing is to become humble, to take a humble position. And that's the whole idea of Trinadapi. You know, like I was saying the other day, Vaisheshika Prabhu says, "I live to be corrected." Is there any fault someone can accuse me of that doesn't have some basis in reality? I mean, someone can say absolute lies about me, but still, I have so many faults that even if someone's saying a complete lie about me, there's some truthfulness in some way, in some aspect, because I have all these faults. So there's no harm with just saying, "I live to be corrected. Thank you for correcting me. Thank you for chipping a piece off of my false ego." Now, of course, the problem with doing that is that we do have this reaction in our body, as Krishna explains. Even if we're a sadhu, that cannot be stopped. But one has to, just like Krishna pauses. Kalyavana's insulting him, he pauses. Hiranyaksha's insulting him, he pauses. Pondraka's insulting him, he pauses. Even with Bhrigu insulting him, he pauses. He stops. And similarly, we also pause. We take a step back, observe these different natural biological reactions, and say, how do I want to respond? How do I want to respond? What is my goal here? And the more we practice that, the more we can actually be servants of our Lord, who has all of these wonderful feelings and deals with them in such an exemplary way. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Samasitam Buddha sundarangam Kandar ako vikamaniya Vishesha Shobha Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Angani Yasa Sakalen Kriya Priti Manti Vasyanti Panti Kayanti Chiram Naganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadhu Jala Vigrahasya Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami
Tarani Mandala Mahite Gokula Tarani Mandala Mahite Gokula Tarani Mandala Mahite Gokula Tarani Mandala Mahite Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Dayate Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Dayate Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Dayate Radhe Jaya Jaya Damodara Rati Vardhana Veshe Harini Skuta Brinda Vipineshe Damodara Rati Vardhana Veshe Harini Skuta Vipineshe Damodara Rati Vardhana Veshe Harini Skuta Brinda Vipineshe Damodara Rati Vardhana Veshe Harini Skuta Brinda Vipineshe Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Dayate Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Dayate Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Dayate Radhe Jaya Jaya Vrijabhanu Dadi Navashashi Leke Lalita Saki Guna Ramita Vishake Vrijabhanu Dadi Navashashi Leke Lalita Saki Guna Ramita Visha Vrishabhanu Dadi Navashashi Leke Lalita Saki Guna Ramita Vishake Vrishabhanu Dadi Navashashi Leke Lalita Saki Ramita Vishake Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Dayate Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Dayate Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Dayate Radhe Jaya Madhava Dayate Karunam Kurumai Karuna Bharate Sanaka Sanatana Varnita Charite 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 Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Dayate Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Dayate Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Dayate Radhe Jaya Madhava Dayate Jaya Radha Goloka Nanda Radha Goloka Nanda Radhe Jaya Radha Goloka Nanda Radha Nanda Radha Jaya Radha Goloka Nanda Radha Goloka Nanda Radhe Goloka Nanda Radha Nanda Ram Jaya Giri Govardhan Giri Govardhan Giri Govardhan Jaya Giri Govardhan